Welcome to today's webinar, everyone. In just a few minutes, we'll get started with our digital tools, our digital learning tool Smackdown. But first, I've got a few introduction and housekeeping items. My name is Mary Carnahan, and I am Learning Resources Specialist at the Department of Education. I am the host and producer of today's webinar. As you entered the room today, your audio was muted. Please keep that muted throughout the hour to reduce background noise. Please use the chat, which most of you have found, I think. Please use the chat that's over on the right side of your screen to share any ideas and questions that you have throughout the webinar today. If you haven't already done so, please introduce yourself and also tell us your favorite digital learning tool. Share that with the other participants of the webinar today. I am recording today's webinar, and I'll post that on our YouTube channel early next week. There are over 70 recorded webinars on our YouTube channel, so be sure to check those out and see what is there that might be of interest to you. We also award 1 PGP for participating in live webinars, and I will be sending out those PGP certificates likely tomorrow, and if they don't go out tomorrow, then they will go out on Thursday. So watch for that in being sent to the email that you registered with today. Now it's time to get started with our digital tool Smackdown. We thought this would be a fun way to end Indiana Digital Learning Month. Hopefully you've been able to participate in some of the other events that we've had this month, but this is our culminating event, so we're excited to end with this. In the next 50 minutes or so, 55 minutes or so, 8 educators will share their favorite digital learning tool. We've got educators in a variety of different roles in their schools and districts, and we've broken up the hour, the presenters, with a K-4 focus first, then 5-8, and then 9 through 12. But really, all of these tools can be used at a variety of different grade levels. So don't feel like just because you're a high school teacher, you won't be able to get anything from the K-4 folks, etc. There will be something for everybody in this hour. And this is a list of our presenters who are with us today, but I don't want to take up too much time. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Annie, who is going to get us started with our hour.
Thank you. Well, hi, I'm Annie Barth. I am a 3rd grade teacher at Zionsville Community Schools. This is my 2nd year in 3rd grade and my 1st year teaching high ability. I am also a Seesaw ambassador, and that's the technology tool that I'm going to be teaching you about today. I have my email on here in case you have any questions later. Next slide, please. So with Seesaw, there are just so many different possibilities and things that you can do with it. The main thing that I like to say about Seesaw is it's really opening your walls of your classroom to your parents. And so you can send your messages, newsletters, posting pictures, different activities, all in one space. The best part with the communication aspect of Seesaw is that when parents set up their account, they only see things that their child is tagged in. And they also can set it up if English is not their first language. Any messages that I send as a teacher, it translates them for them on their end, so they can fully understand what's going on in our classroom. I have some examples that I'm going to share with you here on the following slides of these activities and newsletter ideas for that you can do in your classroom. Please. So here are some activities that my kids have done. The one on the left side is more of like an accountability aspect that you can use Seesaw for. So when I'm doing stations and I'm working with a small group, one of the expectations that I have for my kids is that they'll take a picture of what they've been working on, because when I'm with my small group, I don't always get a chance to walk around and see if everybody is staying on task. So this kiddo, they took a picture of their spelling words that they had stuck up on the whiteboard and posted it. To the right, I have a shark, and this was something that one of my kids was really proud of. And so I always allow them to have time at the beginning of the day, or if they finish something early, they can post a picture to show their parents what they're really proud of. Also, with parent accounts, open up our Seesaw community to their grandparents. So this kiddo in particular has her grandmother on it, and that's a great way for distant families to be able to still see what their grandkiddos are doing. In the last picture there at the bottom right is just a picture that I took, and I tend to take a lot of pictures throughout the day, and I just post them straight to Seesaw, and you can put captions with these. And this is a great tool instead of having to put it in your every week of what you've been doing. If you just take a picture each day of a different subject of what you've done, it kind of covers that basis instead of having to write it down later in a newsletter. Next slide, please. As the students get older, because Seesaw can be used for K through 4, you can start, and older, but you can start having folders. And so I have folders where my kids can put each of the activities that they do or any pictures that I take. And so that picture on the left is the pictures of the kinds of folders that I have. One of the folders that's not posted on here is a WOW folder. And the WOW folder is used for conferences. So I have student-led conferences, and my kids, when something for math and they take a picture of it, they can put it in the math folder, but they can also choose a second folder, choose the WOW folder. And the purpose of the WOW folder is it's the work that they want to show and they're really proud of. And so once conferences come around, I just print everything that's in the WOW folder, and the student can use that to present. Or else I can bring it with me to any kind of conferences that I have on a child. I can that subject. The picture on the right, the larger picture, is a picture of my screen as the teacher. It also is on the activities tab. So a bunch of teachers have already posted activities that you can just move over to your activity area, and the kids can start working on them, and you can assign the activities to them. And there are activities for every subject. It's amazing. But if you don't find something that you are looking for, you can also create your own activities for them to complete too. The little red 7 or 47 in the upper corner is showing my notifications. So I have it set on my Seesaw account that I have to review everything that the kids post before it goes to their parents, so I can see if they actually are doing what they're supposed to be before it is submitted to their parents. Next slide, please. This slide is really all about that communication aspect home. There's a few different ways that I do this. And so the first one in the upper left is a night that we had here at school with wellness. And this is more of like, it's on an Instagram wall. It's kind of seems for the kids. And this is where all their pictures and any other posts that they do. So you can put it up on the wall, and then the kids are able to see it, and it kind of helps them remember. Or if you do the bottom left, you can send just a private message to all the parents, or you can send private messages to just the parents. The best part about Messenger is that you can see when parents have seen your message. So sometimes parents won't respond, and that's fine, but then you know that they've read your message that you've sent. On the right side is a picture of my kids do instead of a newsletter, and they take a video each week, Friday. It just takes them a few minutes, and they talk about one thing that they learned in each subject for the week, and they reflect on how they did that week. So the kids really like it. It's meaningful, and the parents actually watch it instead of me sending a newsletter that none of them would read. But there's lots of things you can do with Seesaw, and if you have any more questions, Feel free to email me. I also included a free Seesaw webinar link on the second slide. So off to Hannah.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Hannah Bowerman, and I teach general music to 1st through 4th grade at Concord Eastside Elementary in Elkhart, Indiana. This is my 4th year teaching, my 3rd year here at Concord, and my 2nd year using the program I'm going to talk about today called Quaver. I am lucky enough to work in a district that values music education. And every 6 or 8 years, the other music teachers and myself get to adopt a new music curriculum. Next screen, please. The program that I'm sharing with you today is one we adopted last year called Quaver Music. And to tell you the truth, I was extremely skeptical of this program when I first heard of it. Like many others, I desire to be the one in control in my classroom, but I realized that I needed to loosen the reins a little bit if I wanted to foster an environment capable of nurturing my students' voices through collaboration with their peers. But a little bit about this program. Quaver offers a full curriculum for K to 6th grade with 36 complete lessons per grade, as well as project ideas, musicals, recorder play-along songs, and so much more. So I saw some curriculum directors in this group, but mostly share these things with your music teachers at your school, because unless you're a music teacher, you probably wouldn't use this unless you end up trying the free trial. A lot of these tools were extremely helpful in building a music curriculum framework for new teachers, but especially as tools to leave with a sub or a long-term substitute, they're extremely beneficial. What I'm most interested in sharing with you today is the resource creation page that you will see in just a minute, and then the resource manager page that you see right now. In just one 40-minute music class, I typically transition from one activity to the next about 6 to 8 times, sometimes more with younger grade levels, which means that if we're using technology, I could potentially have that many tabs open in my web browser and be hopping all over the place. And that's just for one grade level, and I teach 4 in a day. However, the resource creation feature on Quaver allows me to organize an entire lesson in one place or tab rather than having several open. And then I can have all of my lessons organized into folders by grade level like you see here. That's a good question. I will get to the cost in a second. Next screen, please. Because my school adopted Quaver as a curriculum, each of my students has their own account as well. So we took time to set those up. So when we have e-learning days, or if I have a sub in music class, my students are not missing out on anything. They're not doing extra fluff just because I'm not there. I'm able to create a lesson for them, share it to their accounts as an assignment, and then see who has completed the assignment in Quaver Gradebook. I use the teacher recording tool to communicate with them and vice versa. They can send me messages on Quaver rather than a first grader trying to figure out email in a completely different tab, or they can submit their answers to an assignment via the student recording tool. For an example, last week I created a Jeopardy-esque game with the quiz challenge tool that you might see on there, and had my students paired up in class competing against one another to review a musical concept we'd been working on for a few weeks. It was such a fun way for them to review with one another. And rather than having them use an outside website, I found other websites where you can create your own Jeopardy. This was so much more accessible to them because they already know how to log into these accounts. On another e-learning day, I shared an assignment with my students on Quaver that consisted of a YouTube video, an article on African drumming, and a quick assessment that I was able to create. But rather than having them open up all of these different tabs for it, it was compiled into one assignment that they could click next through, that I used through Quaver's resource creation screens. And I'm also able to open up a group chat for each of my classes if I'd like them to discuss something or share their takeaways from a video or drop their high scores on a game that they want to brag a little bit about. Obviously, I get to monitor those conversations in the group chats, and they know that I have full rights to disable the group chat. My 4th graders are also knee deep in recorder playing right now, which, those noisy plastic quote unquote flutes. Every year we do what's called record karate, where students can earn belts by mastering a song on their recorder, increasing in difficulty level. In past years, students would only play the next song that they mastered for me during the allotted amount of class time that I opened up to them. But because students are able to submit recordings to me now on Quaver, they can practice these at home, video record themselves playing a song for me, and submit it. And then by the next time they come back to class, if I've listened to their video that they have hopefully indeed mastered, then they get their next karate belt and they don't have to wait around in class for that to happen. This allows them to progress at their own level and encourages practice at home, which every music lesson teacher knows can be a real struggle when you're competing with things like Minecraft and Fortnite at home. Next screen, please. So Quaver offers a free trial, and if this is something that you are considering for your district or you would just like more information on, go to quavermusic.com and check out that free trial. It was something that was I think a little bit more expensive, but I'll let you know, like personally, I don't know what the actual cost was, but for our district, I know that we were able to get Quaver for all of our teachers and students, and we also were able to get like another supplemental curriculum. So technically we bought 2 curriculums that one year. So it must not have been crazy enough where it was so overwhelming. But feel free to email me if you have any other questions or if I can help point you in the right direction for that. Next up, also from my district, is Kelly Weldy.
Seesaw creates a digital portfolio.
Here. Today I am going to talk to you about Book Creator. It is an awesome tool that all students can use, although I'm focused on elementary. You can go ahead to the next slide, please. My name is Kelly Weldy, and I am a digital learning specialist from Concord Community Schools, just like Hannah said, and that's also in Elkhart, Indiana. Prior to this role, I have taught kindergarten, first grade, and second grade for about 19 years. And I really always like to look for tools that meet the needs of all learners, and Book Creator is definitely one of those tools that I'm excited to talk to you about today. Go ahead to the next slide, please.
Okay. Let's see.
So what is Book Creator? Book Creator is an awesome creation tool that students and teachers both can use, and it's geared towards students of all grades and abilities. I used it quite a bit with my kindergarten, first, and second graders, and they loved it. They always asked to use it. They really love this tool. It's available as an iOS app, and it's also available in the Chrome browser. Students can create using video, text, voice, drawings, hyperlinks. There are tons of fonts, Google Images, shapes, photos. There are just all kinds of creation tools built right within Book Creator. Go ahead to the next slide, please. I want to show you a quick example here of a book that some students collaborated on together. It's all about spiders. So this would be an example of a research book. You can see that they've embedded an image from Google. They've added backgrounds. There's various fonts. They also have even added their own voice. You can see there's a little speaker over top of that spider there. And there's a video in the bottom page there that they've added of a different spider. But I really love how even the youngest learners and students who are still developing their writing skills can contribute to these awesome books. But older students can create more sophisticated books, and teachers can even create templates and share those with students. And then they can edit those templates and create something a little bit more sophisticated. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So Book Creator can be used so many different ways. There's really just so many options. In my second grade class, my students created reflection journals. So each day we had time at the end of the day where they would add a page to their reflection journal, and they might reflect over a certain time of the day, or they might reflect over their behavior for that day, or an activity, or a score on a test or something. But they would have a specific time of the day where they would reflect on something. And that was just one way that we used it. Some kindergarten teachers have created a class ABC book where students are adding pictures to the ABC book, drawings and images from around the classroom where they're going to take different pictures, or math problem books. Students can track their own growth throughout the year with their books. They can create digital portfolios. They can create comic books. They can create reading response journals. There's just so many different ways that Book Creator can be used in the classroom. Go ahead to the next slide, please. I could go on and on about all the different reasons that I love Book Creator, but I love it mainly because it's such an easy tool to use. When I go into classrooms to show students how to use Book Creator, they learn so quickly how to use some of these tools. I don't have to spend a lot of time showing them how to use it. And really, that's the goal. We want students to be able to focus on their content and not get hung up on how to use this special tool. So even the youngest learners find it really easy to use. I also really love that the video and voice options are perfect for students who are still developing skills. And the comic book option is really great for students who maybe are a little bit more reluctant to write. So it builds that engagement piece. And at the end of the day, they can always publish their book and they can share that link with anyone. They can share it with parents, they can share it on Twitter, they can share it in an email, they can share it wherever they want, and then they've got that book to save for wherever they want to save it. If you can go ahead to the next slide. If you want more information, please feel free to reach out and I can help you with any questions that you might have. And I believe that Holly is next.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, hopefully. My name is Holly Summers. I currently teach at Yorktown Middle School. I teach 7th grade math. I have all the general 7th graders. I've taught math for 11 years. So I've taught high school classes. I've taught 5th and 6th grade departmentalized math and self-contained special ed math. And that's my Twitter handle. That's the best way to reach me if you have questions or things after this is over. Okay, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So what I'm going to talk about is GeoGebra, which is a free, which is probably my favorite part, web-based app that you can use for math and math activities. There is a graphing calculator component as well as a geometry component. For me, I have mainly used the geometry component this past year. And there are lots of things that you can use on there. There are even some 3D applications, even just a general scientific calculator and some things like that. But I have not really, I've just focused on the graphing, and then the geometry have been the way I've used. When you use this is the main screen here that you're looking at. Works on all different devices. I have been one-to-one at schools with Chromebooks, with iPads, and with MacBooks, and it seems to work just fine with all of them. Students sign in with Google, which is nice, so they can save to their account and share that way. I think if there's anything else in this entry picture. And then too, I'm going to talk about this here in a minute, but there are a lot of resources already created on GeoGebra, lessons and other tools and things like that, where it says classroom resources. So you can always go there and explore as well. The next slide. So this is just some examples of when I have done some GeoGebra things in my classroom. So on the far left is just a picture, kind of shows that was usually the first day. I just do kind of an intro where they're playing around with the tools. So they had to create a quadrilateral, create a hexagon, and use their writing tool for a name. So you can use it with or without the graph. The middle picture is something I'll touch on a little bit more in the next slide. Was kind of I make a help desk for students. So whenever I do a new technology tool, I'm sure as you all know, there are lots of questions and you spend sometimes more time troubleshooting than you do working on it. And it always seems like there are usually a couple of students that catch on really quick. So I always create a student help desk so that I have a couple students that can ask, questions or ask for help as well. And then the one on the right was showing, so one of the 7th grade standards deals with the triangle inequality theorem. And that was a great way for them to discover. So I'd tell them, okay, create side links of 3, 4, and 5. So they'd create line segments and then they could move them around and see if they could construct a triangle. Next slide. 5 minutes goes really fast. So just a couple of hints with using it that I have found help along the way is to have a student ran help desk. Like I said, every period usually has like a student expert after you've gone on, so always having one of them to help. I always allow for a day of discovery before I have them do an assignment. Learn to use the tools, the different options, tabs, making sure they know how to save, all of those. Yes, and you can load your own activities. I'm trying to answer questions at the same time, but yes, you can load your own activities on there as well. Yes, and I would agree. That's why I always have a student help, because the kids catch on usually quicker than the adults. The other thing is I would always encourage, which is to have students get in the habit of saving the work, exporting it as an image, downloading it to their device, and then submitting it in whatever format that you're using, Canvas, Schoology, or whatever, as a GeoGebra file, that GGB. That way you can open it up, because if you're giving them specific things, so like triangle constructions are a 7th grade standard. So if I'm having them construct a triangle, to see that they created it using line segments or that they measured things like that, you can see every click and every action that they've taken. So if they don't submit it, if they just do like a screenshot, you can't go into that. But if you go back and if they've submitted it in GeoGebra file, you can open it back up and see what steps they've taken to complete those. So I've just found that that's another helpful thing to use. And I think that's kind of just where I wanted to hit the highlights, but I know that sometimes with math, it's a little harder to find things, and I've used Desmos a lot, but I feel like with the geometry standards, and I've taught geometry, it just kind of lets you go that next step with some constructions and some creation. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it off to, I believe Tiffany is next.
Hi, my name is Tiffany, and I am an instruction, programming, assessment, and data specialist for Scott County School District 2. And but I was in the classroom for 15 years. I've taught both in the elementary and the middle school setting. As it is right now, I work mostly with elementary students and teachers, and a lot of e-learning and integration in the classroom. But parts of my other job include working with our dyslexia programming, which is new for this year with the new legislation. And I also help coordinate our EL programming. So I guess when I was thinking about what tool to use, Quizlet kept coming to mind because it's been a really great help for students who fall into those categories. So Mary, you can go ahead and advance that slide. And everyone else is an overachiever, and I made one little slide, so I'll try to really do this slide justice. But what I love about Quizlet, especially for students who do struggle, either they have that barrier of the language barrier, or maybe dyslexia is a challenge for them, is you can go in and you can create and students can create these deck cards that they can study, and they can study them in meaningful ways. They can get the repetitions that they need. They can hear, so they can click on the audio and they can hear that read aloud, and so they can really practice with some independence. But I know Quizlet's been around for a really long time. It's nothing new, but I think sometimes when we get in the ed tech world, sometimes we forget some of the things that we used to use in the past. So maybe this is a good refresher for you. But I really want to focus on Quizlet Live because I love what I love most about Quizlet Live is that it kind of forces this collaboration between students. And what I mean by that is when you go into Quizlet and you select that you want to play a Quizlet Live game, you as the teacher, will push a live game, and students will join with a code, which is very similar to other things like quizzes or Kahoot. But when students join in and everyone's in the game and you push that live, Quizlet will actually mix your students up and put them into these groups that they have to work with. And so there's none of that, well, Mrs. Koppel made me work with this kid. I mean, what Quizlet says reigns supreme, right? And so they take that very seriously. And they will very quickly move around and they get situated into their groups, and then it's time to go. And when I mean it's kind of this forced collaboration, that sounds like it's a terrible thing, but really it's not. The So the question will pop up, and only one of the students in that group will have the correct answer. And so they have to really work together as a team to determine whose screen has the correct answer. So it's really kind of cool to watch students work in these groups. And you see a lot of students who may or may not ever choose to work together, and they're talking excitedly. And they're really trying to race. So you can see right here in the center of the slide, it says create collaborative groups. That black screen right there, that kind of shows those little icons. As students complete those questions, those little icons will move across the screen. So it's literally like a race. So I would put that up on my board and students would watch it. And it gets really, really exciting as students compete. And I've played a lot of Kahoot games. I've played a lot of quizzes games, love quizzes, but the excitement level that students have with Quizlet Live is like beyond comparison to those things. And I don't know what it is. They're really quick hitting games, and that's probably a really good thing too, because sometimes you might get a Kahoot game and it's 30 questions long, or and it really takes some time. But Quizlet, the way they form these, they're very quick hitting, and so when you finish the task, you can regenerate, and it will mix the students all up again, and they will have to get up and go to a new group, and they're going to play all over again, and they're going to play with different cards. So for example, even if you had a deck set of 20 flash cards, I think it'll end up with like over 100,000 or something different combinations that they could end up playing. So no game would be the same, and they can jump in there and just keep having fun. And a lot of times what would happen when we would play is I would plan, okay, we're gonna do like 15 minutes of Quizlet Live, and we end up the kids begging me and we play 20 minutes of Quizlet Live, or 25. And it really kind of became their game of choice when we were doing some review. So usually before a test, we would play a quick game. Not even the day before, but maybe like a quick refresher before we actually took the test. We would play a quick game of Quizlet Live, and that would kind of wake their brains back up to the content. So really, it's quite simple. If you haven't tried Quizlet Live, it really kind of functions just like a Kahoot, or just like a Quizzes as far as setup goes for the teacher. Once you've made your deck sets in Quizlet and they've used those to practice and play the other games that Quizlets have forever, which by the way, if you're Canvas, like you can embed all of that stuff, and it's really great. So once you've done all of that and you're ready to review as a group and have some fun, yeah, this is completely free. Of course, there's always paid versions of everything, but I've never paid for anything. I always get the biggest bang for my buck. But once you hit that live button, it totally changes the game. And it took something that the kids used to see as just flashcards as something completely different. So that's really all I have. I hope that maybe if you haven't tried Quizlet Live yet, that you'll go try it, or if you haven't revisited Quizlet and maybe you have some of those special populations that's really good for, it's good for all students, maybe you'll go give it a second chance. I'm going to swing this over to Chris now. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great afternoon.
Hello, my name is Chris Young, and I am going to be sharing with you Google My Maps. And I had the intro slide there, but I'm going to be sharing my screen rather than talking through a slide, because I kind of want to share it in action. So hopefully everybody can see my screen now. But Google My Maps, it is a tool within G Suite. And so on the surface, it looks like something that would be really great for social studies or geography class, but like in all of the main content areas, I think there is some really powerful applications for it, and we'll kind of go through and share some of those things. So on the surface, its most basic level, Google My Maps allows you to basically drop pins, and so you can see they're actually called layers. And so I created a layer and I called it places I've traveled to. So if I wanted to drop another pin on this layer, I could click the pin button. And last summer I went to Seattle, Washington. So I could click in there and I could call that point Seattle, Washington. Students could then come in here and they could type, about the different places. So if it was science and they were talking about biomes, they could place pins on the biomes and type about it. But I could say, I went up on the Space Needle. And from here, there's also other things. Kids can embed images or videos within here. And so it's connected to their Google Drive, but you can also pull up the webcam. The kids could video themselves talking about the location or the place. But under more, they can also do a Google image search or YouTube search. So if I wanted to, I could type in Space Needle and it will pull up. And so here's a Seattle travel Space Needle video. I click save. And now when someone clicks on that pin, they would get my information. They also get the latitude and longitude. There's some editing stuff where I could change the pin from, being that pin drop to an icon of like a hiker. I can change the color. I can do all sorts of cool stuff. And so on the most basic level, that's what it is. But I want to show some other really cool applications on it. So what I'm going to do, and it's kind of like a calendar, if I want to hide all of these pins, I can just uncheck this button and it clears my map for me. And what's great is students can keep adding layers and they can use the same map throughout the whole year. And because it's Google, you see this share button. I could share my map with a teacher or another student in the classroom, just like all of Google's things, and we can work and collaborate together on a single map. So here's a map that I've created called Perimeter and Area. And you can see what I've done is I created a line. I drew a line around Greenland and I drew a line around Mexico. And for fun, just to kind of show you how easy it is, I could also have kids playing trips. There's driving routes and biking routes and walking routes. But I'm going to add a line or a shape, and I'm going to draw it around here. It's like DRC. I think that's the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Kind of roughly draw that there. And I'll call it DRC. If I wanted, kids could type about it. They could add images. Save. So, game. I won't ask for a response, but if we were to look at Greenland, Mexico, or the DRC, what has the biggest area and what has the biggest perimeter? And so I would pose this question to students because anytime I draw a shape, it is going to tell me right here the perimeter or the area and also the perimeter. And so with Greenland, its area is 887,142 square miles. So remember 887,000. What's kind of amazing, because the Earth is a sphere, as long as you're not a flat earther, the Earth is a sphere, and when they make it flat, the further away from the equator, the more distorted things get on a map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab this shape that I drew of Greenland, and I'm going to drag it all the way down closer to the equator, and you can actually see the comparable size of Greenland compared to Mexico. So Greenland is actually smaller in surface area than Mexico, and obviously to the DRC as well. And so for kids to see that distortion, like for me, it was like my whole life is a lie. But you can get some really cool data in terms of like, so this is 887,000 square miles. This Mexico drawing, 1.4 million square miles, and the DRC, 1.9 million square miles. And so the kids could then come in and write and do all sorts of stuff. So that's super cool. They can also, in terms of measurement, there's this ruler. They can click here and they can go from different places of the world and figure out how many miles away it is to travel to that place. Um, that's awesome. But I want to show something else that's really, really cool, and I call it My Maps Magic. So what I'm going to do, I gave a Google form out earlier that I asked people their best vacation. It's actually many of the people that have already presented have told me the best place that they've ever traveled to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a Google Sheet. So I'm going to click on my Google Drive, and it should pull up. Scroll down here. So many folders. Okay. I click select. It is going to ask, what column do you want to position your place mark with? So I'm going to position that to the best place they ever vacationed. And I'm going to click continue. And then it's going to say, what do I want the title to be? I want their name to be the title. So I click finish, and there were 5 of them that had filled this out. And it's going to create a basically thing here where it's put all of their locations on the map. And so I could click, and Nate says, the best place he ever visited was Barbados, beautiful ocean. And I could share this with Nate, and I could ask him to add pictures and from his trip and different things, and it's really awesome. So one cool application that I've seen that actually my school has done with this, and I actually learned this trick from Kurt Schleibaum. And what he did is he created a Google form and asked his community, like, when you find a place in the community with free Wi-Fi, put the address down on this Google form. So then all you have to do is do this import, and you would have like a local free Wi-Fi map that is always super easy to update that you can then share. Because like I said, this is a Google. So what I can do is I can get a link to this that anybody can view, and it's perfectly awesome. So Google My Maps is an incredible tool, and there's so much, I just am scratching the surface of what you can do. So thank you very much. I'm going to pass it off to the incredible Diana Gill.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Gill. I'm the Director of Technology for East Porter County School Corporation in Northwest Indiana. And you can follow me on Twitter at Diana or Gill. Next slide, please, Mary. Today, I'm going to be sharing with everyone a couple of tools that help you be a responsible creator. CreativeCommons.org is an organization that helps you do a lot of things kind of surrounding responsible creativity. And so 2 tools I want to show you. First, helps you create new things responsibly. And the second one is, once you create something, how do you ensure that it's being shared in and used in the way that you want to use it? Next slide. Awesome, thank you. So the first one is the one-click image attribution on creativecommons.org. So when I'm talking about how to be a better responsible designer, I think the easiest point of entry is starting with the use of images, because we are all using images in the content that we're designing for students to use online. And you're either using an image or you're not. And so it's kind of an easy way to understand how we can apply copyright and attribution, and also an easy way to help your students start to get into the practice of providing proper attribution. But that takes time, and we all have a million things on our plates, and providing perfect image attribution in literally everything that we make is an extra step, let's be honest. However, Creative Commons recently created the one-click attribution. So if you head to creativecommons.org, and up at the top you click on where it says search for CC images, you will get a search engine of sorts that allows you to look for things, images that are licensed in a way that tell you exactly how you're allowed to use them. And so if I pop in a search for something like giraffe or rainbow, then I know that every image that I find is going to be something I'm allowed to use in some way. And it's going to tell me if I'm allowed to change it, if I'm allowed to crop it, if I'm allowed to use it for commercial purposes, etc. But what's so magical about it is that underneath the image, you are going to see this image attribution that's already done for you perfectly. And if you click the button that says copy rich text, It's going to copy all of the information that you need, and it's going to all be properly linked. And so all you have to do is head back into your doc or your Google slide presentation or wherever you're designing, and you can paste that perfect attribution in there, and it's super quick and easy. And I'll show you what that looks like on the next slide. So here's an example of best practices for image attribution. A proper image attribution has 4 things in it. It tells you the title of the picture, the author, the source where that image came from, and then the license as it's applied to that specific resource. And so that's a lot of things, a lot of information to go out and collect by hand if you're just kind of scanning on Google Images or learning or looking on some other image website. So in this example, you can also see that everything is hyperlinked, because for a perfect attribution, not only do you need all of that stuff, you also kind of need to hyperlink the heck out of it. And that's the technical term for best practices. Yes. So it's already done for you. So if I click on where it says Rainbow Watcher, it's going to take me right back to the site where I found that. If I click where it says CC0 1.0, it's going to take me to an easy to read page that tells me exactly how this is licensed and how I'm going to use it. So it just kind of takes the guesswork and the work out of it. It's done for you, but it still allows you to model best practices, model responsible creativity, and it's a good way to kind of start having conversations with students on, why are we using creativecommons.org to find images? Because it helps us attribute properly. And then if they don't want to use it, at least it's a good way to learn that process so they know what does need to be included on a high quality attribution. Next slide, please. Awesome. So the next thing I'm going to show you quickly is sort of the other end of the creative process where you've created something and now you're ready to share it. So not only does Creative Commons allow you to find things that you're allowed to use, it also helps you be a good sharer. When you create something, copyright is automatically applied to it. And what Creative Commons licenses do is kind of help you manage the terms of copyright as they're applied to your stuff. So in the work that we do in education, we're always designing and remixing and finding things to use. And there are a lot of hurdles to why I might be a little hesitant to share some of my stuff. Maybe I want to share all of my things freely, but I'm not cool with someone trying to sell it, right? So that's an example that might be relevant. So after I make a hyperdoc or a really awesome slide presentation that I'm using for PD or whatever, I can apply a Creative Commons license to my work that says, please use this, share it freely, but don't sell it, that sort of thing. It's up to me as the creator how I want this stuff to be used. So I'm going to tell you about the Creative Commons License Chooser add-on in Google Docs. If you head to add-ons in the Google Doc and go to get add-ons, you can search for it. It's called Creative Commons License Chooser. Once you have it, you can launch that add-on and a dashboard is going to pop up on the right of your screen. That's just going to ask you some really simple yes or no questions that help determine the license feature and which license is appropriate for the resource that you want to share. So do you want people to be able to change your work, or do you want them to use it as is, and do you want them to be able to sell it? That's pretty much the short version of those questions. And then once you do that, it's going to choose the correct license for you. And on the next slide, all you have to do is click that blue button that is going to automatically insert the license into your Google Doc. And so wherever, my GIF isn't working in this slide, but if I click that, wherever my cursor is inside of the Google Doc, that license is going to pop up, and it's going to look pretty much like the image attribution that I showed you. It's going to say, this is created by Diana Gill, it's licensed under this way. And then if I click that hyperlink that it's going to provide for me, it's going to explain exactly how it is I want my resource to be shared. And what's so cool about that is that it makes us feel more confident about sharing our work, because we have a little bit more control over what happens to it after it leaves us. And ultimately, it encourages sharing. Another thing that's really cool is that you can also, I just saw a question. Right now, to my knowledge, this is only available in Google Docs. You can also go to creativecommons.org to do something really similar. You can copy and paste licenses into your slides or like your other places that you're doing design work. Or what I'll do a lot is just make my license inside of a Google Doc, and I'll copy and paste it to wherever I need it to go. But the other thing that's really cool is that the license also, there's one feature that's called share alike. And that's the really cool one because it's sort of like the ripple effect in motion. Hey, I'll share this with you. And if you change it, guess what? I want you to license it the same way and encourage that sharing to continue beyond me. Next slide. Yep, that's pretty much it. So a couple tools to help you be a responsible creator who is open to sharing your things with other educators, because we certainly need each other to survive in this profession. And I am going to pass it along to Nate.
Hey guys, so my name is Nate Ridgway, and I am currently a teacher at Beech Grove High School in Indianapolis, Indiana. Basically, I would kind of give my description of like, I'm just a passionate nerd about a lot of things. One of those things being ed tech, and then kind of how and why and the ways that, and thinking about the ways that we're using it and how we can make that more open and accessible to kids. So I'm also the co-author of the latest Ditch book, which is Don't Ditch That Tech, if you haven't checked it out. Then I also run a podcast for new teachers called Make It Till Friday. If you'd like to connect with me after this, I'd always love to do that. And my Twitter and my blog are both there, and you can find them. You can go ahead on to the next slide. So this is actually the only slide that I have for this entire thing, because I really wanted to take some time and talk about kind of the practical applications of this. So I've now used this app called ClassTime for about 3 years. And what it is it says there on the screen, it's a rapid fire assessment tool, which can collect data really, really quickly. The thing that I love about ClassTime is how easy it is to make formative or informative assessments. And it's very similar, for example, in some ways, if maybe you've heard of things like Socrative or Spiral or things like that. But there's a few things that I really, really like it for that I'm gonna kind of explain. So first of all, it's one of these like freemium apps, which I have gotten away now using the free version for a long, long time. And eventually I used it for so long that I was like, okay, I should probably pay these people back. So eventually I went ahead and did the paid version because it's just simply that great. But I would recommend, if you'd like to give this a try for free, I put a link there. That's just like my personal referral code, and you can give it a try for 3 months of the premium and see if you like it. But the free version has so much utility that I thought it was definitely worth mentioning here. So kind of what you do is similar to, if you've heard about these assessment apps before, is you take a set of questions that you might have, but it could be something as simple as like using it for warm-ups or exit tickets or a whole variety of things. And you then basically distribute that out to students. There's a few different ways that you can do it. There's a code that you can give students that they can type in. It's about 6 letters and numbers, which is fine. But then they also have where you can simply have students scan QR codes to log into it, which is awesome. And then there's a third option where, when this is what I do in the classroom, is I have the question sets that it sends kids to linked in like with a hyperlink. And then that automatically logs them into it. So it's awesome for littles as well as old students, because it's literally just about 2 clicks to log in and actually get students to whatever you want them to do. So the thing that I really, really love about ClassTime is that it is so flexible. It doesn't operate on a room system. So if you're familiar with like other apps that have kind of like room setups where like you have this room open for a certain amount of time and then you close it down, you can leave a ClassTime session open indefinitely. So I use it in my particular room because I have a flipped classroom, and students can, depending on like when they're most comfortable, like looking at the entrance ticket or the exit ticket, they can do it on their free time. And then the other part that I love about it is the absolute ridiculous flexibility with differentiation that I can do with it. So it has kind of a feature that a lot of other apps out there have, which I kind of lovingly call copy, paste, mutate, which is I can take, for example, like a Google Doc, and I can make a new copy of it and add a few mutations. And you can kind of see some of these like suggested mutations. And these are simply scaffolding. that I can add or remove. So for any like question set on ClassTime, I can literally take any question set and I can copy it, I can paste it, I could add in a vocab word bank, I could go and add in a GIF or a YouTube clip for students to watch before they answer, I could reduce the amount of multiple choice questions, all that kind of thing. And it takes me probably less time than I'm actually gonna, talk for these 5 minutes to actually do, which is awesome because I think differentiation can be kind of intimidating and really hard, and it's hard to know kind of where to start. So that's kind of the bare bones essence of the app. They also have this really, really cool thing, which they're expanding right now, called collaborative challenges. And what that does is it takes any question set that you've ever made and it creates an animation. And that animation could be like, constructing a roller coaster or building a city. Depending on how accurately the entire class answers, that particular animation happens. So it really encourages, as opposed to like a Kahoot where at the end of the class you feel like you've ended up in the Hunger Games where students are like, you better not answer that question right, to the other kids that are like, across the room. It forces them actually to collaborate because everybody has to succeed in order for, for example, like the space shuttle to launch and hook up with the International Space Station. So there's that kind of element of it too, which even my high schoolers like as much as they would not like to admit it. So yeah, there you go. That's ClassTime. Again, I'd recommend, just if I were starting with this app, just start really, really small. Try one question set in one block and give it a try and see how it goes. And the amazing thing that is so great about this is because I get all that data so quickly. Within 2 minutes, I can tell exactly where my students are. So I hope this is an app that helps, and you can check more out with that link or connect with me on Twitter, and I can show you some more stuff.
Wow, thank you. What an awesome hour of learning. It's crazy that it's 4:56, 4:57. That hour went super fast. A couple of things. I wanted to acknowledge that Nate talked about his book, and that is actually what we are reading for our book club. We are in week 2 of 5. It's a really short book club this time, but if you are interested in joining us, it's not too late to play catch up. I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and you are welcome to contact me. If you are interested in joining the book club, I'll send you the details. And also, Diana is obviously super passionate about copyright, and because she is so passionate, she did just release a book about that's called Copyrighteous. She didn't mention it, but I wanted to throw it out there. So, and both of those are from Dave Burgess Publishing because that's where all the cool books are, right? So I want to thank all of our presenters, Annie, Hannah, Kelly, Holly, Tiffany, Chris, Diana, and Nate, for taking time out of their busy schedules to prepare for this, and then to take this hour out of their day to share with everybody, and to everybody who joined in as attendees. I hope that you are leaving today, hopefully not too overwhelmed, but I hope that you're taking at least one new digital learning tool with you that you are interested in trying in your classroom or in your school, or depending on what your role is in your district or school, taking back to your teachers and sharing. And also, I loved the conversation. Thank you all for sharing your questions and your ideas and your other suggestions of your favorite digital tools. Really, really great stuff. And I also want to plug Digital Learning Day. Like I said, we are ending Indiana Digital Learning Month, but that started because of the National Digital Learning Day initiative. So that is this Thursday, February 27th, and I'm also going to put the URL, hopefully I will type it, digitallearningday.org. Check out the website and the information that is there. If you are planning some events, please share them on the Digital Learning Day website, and also make sure that you're tweeting using the hashtags DLDay, and also for Indiana Digital Learning Month, INDLM month. So I'm typing and trying to say at the same time. So great information. It is 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock Central, so I want to let you all go in a timely manner. Like I said, I have been recording. I will post this webinar next week, but you will get your PGP certificates in the next day or two. And thank you all very much. Watch for more webinars coming soon, and everybody have a great night. Thanks.